All right, everybody, I want to welcome you to this special live event. Let me get my camera turned here correctly. So, I am really pumped about this one. I really am. I always say that because I love these events. I've started to look at these events very differently than I used to. I used to look at these events and I would say, I'm excited about this event. I'm excited about this moment to talk to you. But the truth is, now what I'm actually get more excited about is I think about the future and I think about those of you that I'm going to run into at an industry event or I'm going to get an email from you in a year from now, 2 years from now, and you're going to say, James, I was on that event when you were with Lavu and you were talking about cash discounting for restaurants, and my residual income is now $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month as a result of being on that event and moving forward in that direction. That is really why I do what I do today, to be honest with you, because it's so fun for me. I get so many emails now. I talk to so many people every time I go to an industry event. I have, people coming up to me and saying, James, I started watching your videos, or I was on that event that you did, or I went through this program that you had. And now my family, we just bought a new home and, paying for my kids' college and, all of these things as a result of this incredible industry that we're a part of. Um, we are so blessed to be part of this industry. I really believe that if you're on this, event right now, you're in the payment processing industry, you are blessed. This is a fantastic opportunity. And when we talk about cash discounting for restaurants, wow, it goes like to this whole other level because it is an incredible opportunity, not just a profiteering, time to make all this money, although that's of course part of it that we'll talk about, but it's an incredible time for you to have a huge impact. And just all the stars have kind of aligned. And I'm going to talk to you about that today, but I've just been amazed at how everything has just lined up perfectly for this moment in time. I believe it's a very fleeting moment. I believe it's an opportunity that's an urgent opportunity. I don't believe this opportunity is going to exist the way it does right now in 24 months. But right now, at this moment, this is a time where there is an incredible opportunity. And that's what I'm going to be talking to you about today. Okay. So, um, what I want to talk to you about first is a word that you really don't hear too much in the payment processing industry, and that is the word significance. Okay. So you really don't hear that very often, do you? Think about when you got recruited into this industry or when you started selling for the processor that you're with right now. I doubt that they use the word significance to describe your role in the community and to describe your role as a payment processing sales representative. But what I'm going to share with you today and this opportunity that exists in our industry right now, this is about significance. Okay. It's about significance. And what I mean by that specifically is helping restaurant owners. Helping restaurant owners. Restaurant owners have been through the ringer. They have had a really difficult, challenging last couple of years. When you think about kind of the history of restaurants in general, I would say the last 2 years, you'd be hard pressed to find a time in the last 70 years where restaurant owners had to experience as much change as they did the last couple of years, right? It's been insane for them, right? Think about if you're a restaurant owner right before COVID started, what was happening in your world? Was everything like easy for you and everything was just smooth sailing? No, you were trying to figure out what to do about DoorDash and Uber Eats, right? You were trying to figure out what to do about online ordering, all these changes, and you're going, wow, we really are going to have to embrace these changes over the next 5 years if we want to be relevant. That's what you were thinking as a restaurant owner right before COVID. Well, then COVID hit. And then you go, oh, wait, we don't have 5 years. We have like 5 days to figure all this out. Right. And it's like, whoa, what is happening? And so there's all of these challenges. And so when we think about this opportunity to sell cash discounting to restaurants, you know, I'll be really honest with you. I look at this as a way that we could literally, the people represented right now that are like listening to this event right now, there's several hundred of us here. Those of us that are on this event right now, we could literally see thousands of restaurant owners where their lives are dramatically better their stress level is dramatically lower. They're able to, in many cases, keep their doors open as a result of what we're going to do right here, right now. Okay, that is significance. That is significance. Okay, so let's talk about this a minute. Let's talk about 4 big challenges that restaurants are facing right now. The first one is something that I think so few of us really understand. And until I started working with Lavu to create this training course and really did my research, I knew some of this, but it really hadn't like sunk in yet. Do you understand that the average restaurant, okay, the average restaurant today has a profit margin of about 5%? 5%. Now think about that for a minute. You go to a restaurant with your friends, you buy some food, you spend $100. That restaurant owner, after they get done paying their employees, paying the rent, paying for the ingredients for the food, right? All of the expenses that go into running a restaurant, when they get done paying all of that, out of that $100 that you gave them, they get to keep $5. $5. Think about that. Next time you go into a restaurant and you think about all that went into the meal that you're eating, that you're enjoying, take whatever you spent and multiply it by 5% and understand that that is what that restaurant owner is going to take home. Now, some of these restaurant owners operate a small, very small restaurant, and because their profit margins are so low, they can't even afford to pay a manager. So they literally are the manager for the restaurant, and so they're trying to pay themselves, a manager's wage. But after they've paid themselves a manager's wage, what's left over is only 5%. It's like they could go be the manager of somebody else's restaurant and not get that 5%. It's like, wow, that's incredible. And when you think about margins as low as 5%, well, now let's talk about these other 3 more urgent issues that have come up for these restaurant owners just recently. And I want you to think about running a business where your profit margin is only 5%. That's all you have to work with is 5%. Now, think about that and go, okay, now how do you deal with these challenges? Are you ready for these challenges? So you're already at 5% margin, and then here comes this. Delivery and carry out. All of a sudden, DoorDash says, well, we'll bring you new customers. We're just going to take 25% of the revenue, 30% of the revenue. That's all. Now what do you do? Right? What happens when you have, staffing issues, right? And all of a sudden you can't get people to work for you. Well, what do you have to do if there's, all these people, you need to hire people and no one wants to work for you? What do you have to do as a business owner? Well, you have to raise your pay, right? Well, if you raise your pay, you got 5% margin right now, right? So how do you do that, right? Then on topping all that off, we have these, these crazy supply chain issues. So now it's like all of a sudden the price of meat for the steakhouse goes up 20% over the course of a couple of months. Again, you got a 5% profit margin. What do you do about that? So these restaurant owners are struggling with these changes. Okay. And these changes are significant. They are a huge, huge problem. Now, I'm going to talk in a little bit about how you can I have an entire video course. I'm going to give it to you for free for a couple of weeks if you're not already part of our subscription. If you are, you got it in there. So I'll talk about that in a minute. And I dive into each of these in a lot more detail so that you can really understand, because, selling cash discounting to restaurants is first and foremost about understanding restaurants and understanding the mindset of these restaurant owners. But I do want to point out one other thing here that I think most of you have already picked up on, but this is key. The average payment processing expense for a restaurant is 2.8%. So these restaurants that have a 5% margin. So again, let's go back to that $100 transaction to break this down and make it really simple. You go into a restaurant, you spend $100. That restaurant gets to keep $5. Now, why are they only getting $5? Well, one of the biggest expenses that they have is that $2.80 out of that 100 is going to go to their payment processor. Okay. So in a business where you have margins of 5%, when you can eliminate a 3% cost, well, you've almost doubled their profit margin. Think about that. That's insane. these restaurant owners, they're trying to make it. They're just trying to survive right now. And at the end of the month, they're able to bring in $3,000 maybe in profit, right? You're going to go in there and you're going to take them from 3,000 to 6,000. That's huge. That's massive. That's like game changing. You're literally going to go into some of these restaurants and you're going to double their income. You're going to double their profit for the year. That's life changing. That's huge. So that's when I talk about significance. There are restaurant owners in your area right now that have no idea that these programs like cash discounting even exist. They have no idea that these programs work really well, right? They just don't have a clue. But when they find out about it, it's a big deal. So let's talk about that. Okay, let's talk about the opportunity. Um, again, I'm trying to fly through this as quickly as I can. Obviously, I'm going to show you how to go through the video course and get all this in depth, but I want to give plenty of time to Lavu to literally show us a processor agnostic version of this so you can actually see like how this works now with restaurants because it's incredible. But, let's talk about the opportunity for you, okay, and for the restaurant owners. And I call this the residual trifecta, okay? I don't know how many of you have ever gone to the horse races. I love going to the horse races. And I've hit a few trifectas, and it just feels great, and you're like, wow, everything came together. I kind of got lucky there a little bit too, and of course you say that it's all you, but really you got lucky. And, you hit this trifecta and it's this huge payout and you're like, wow, that's incredible. I really believe that many of you that are on here right now, in 2 years from now, you're going to look back at this event and you're going to be like, I hit the trifecta. Okay. What is a trifecta? Well, number one is owner interest. Let me save you some suspense. Okay. Restaurant owners want this. Now, does that mean that when you walk in, they say, where do I sign? No, of course not. This is sales, not order taking. You got to sell people. We all understand that. But this idea of cash discounting, as my friend Salim from Lavu will talk about in a minute, I mean, restaurant owners want this. There is a high level of interest. Why? Because of what we just talked about. When you go in there, they're thinking, oh my goodness, I've got all this margin pressure from DoorDash and Uber Eats, and I've got to raise my wages because I've got salary, I've got staffing pressures, and I have supply chain issues, and I've already got low margins. And you come in and say, hey, I can actually add 3% to your margin. They're like, whoa, tell me more, right? This is a huge deal for them. So owner interest. Number two, low saturation. I bet that if you went to all the restaurants in your area and you took a little survey to find out how many of them are currently doing cash discounting, for most of you, I would be surprised if that number was greater than 10%. For many of you, it might be less than 5%. Now, some of you are in certain areas where it's a little more saturated and maybe it's, 20% or 30%, but even that, I mean, it's a low saturation. There's a lot of restaurants that, they just don't even know this exists. So it's kind of deceiving. It seems like, oh, there's not a lot of demand. Well, no, it's just they don't even know that it exists. They don't know that it's possible, but the demand is there. I'm talking to agents every single day right now that are selling restaurants. I did a poll yesterday. Go to my LinkedIn profile and check it out. I did a poll, and I want to say it was north of 30% of the agents that completed my poll, they have sold cash discounting to 30 or more restaurants. Think about that. 60% of the people that took the poll have sold cash discounting to 10 or more restaurants. So this is happening. Restaurant owners like it. There's a very low saturation right now. So that means there's a lot of kind of open road ahead of you and really high profits. Okay. Really high profits. For those of you that understand the mechanics of kind of how cash discounting works and why it's so profitable, I don't really need to explain this very much, but restaurants do much higher margin, much higher volume on average than say a retail store. So, you go to your average kind of like hobby store, specialty retail shop, they might only do 20,000 a month in volume because they're a little bit of a higher margin, right? Same thing with you go to like a hair salon, nail salons, they might be doing 30 or 40,000 a month. Most of these restaurants are doing upwards of 100,000 a month, because that they have to do that much. Otherwise they're not going to make any money. Even like bars and places like that. I mean, they're doing a lot of volume. And so their average volume is high. And of course, with cash discounting, regardless of how high the volume is, the margin as a percentage is the same. You're generally creating 180 basis points plus in margin. And so when you're doing that on 100,000 a month and you're selling 8 restaurants a month or 6 restaurants a month, that adds up very, very quickly to be massive amount of residual. All right, I got to keep moving. So urgency. Now, this is the other part of this. Okay. I want to talk to you about the pitch for a minute. Now, I have literally like 5 minutes left in my time here, and then I want to turn it over to Lavu to show you how this works. And then at the end, we are going to open up to questions. So if you have questions, go ahead and start typing them out in the question box. We're going to answer them at the end after Lavu is done. But I want to talk about the pitch. I have 5 minutes, so I don't have a lot of time, but I'm going to go through it. Again, I'll tell you here in just a minute how you can get the entire video course. I go through, I give you a script to follow. I give you videos on each part of the script, the sales psychology behind it, so you can obviously tweak it and adjust it. I understand most of you are not like going to follow my script. I wouldn't advise that, but you're going to make it your own. But I give you all the concepts around it. These concepts come from my conversations with dozens of agents and ISOs that are successfully selling restaurants, including Lavu that has thousands of clients, and they've been aggressive with cash discounting in the restaurant space. And so let me give you the outline of the pitch real quick. And I actually have the pitch. I printed it out right here so that I could take a look at some of the things. But I just want to kind of highlight a few things. So again, the most important piece of this is getting inside the head of the restaurant owner and understanding what they are going through. You are there to help. You are there to help. I can't say that enough. If you come at this and say, oh, wow, James, you're right. I could go just make tons of money and I could convince these restaurant owners to rip off their customers. And I'll tell them, hey, you could screw your customer and they wouldn't even realize it. And we'll all make a lot of money. You're going to fall flat on your face because restaurant owners don't like to screw their customers. They don't like salespeople that are opportunistic. Okay. You are there to help. You're there to help the restaurant owner. You're there to help them with their margins. You're there to help their consumers. So what's going to happen, as a natural evolution here, as all these costs go up and these staffing issues and all these problems, what's going to happen? Restaurants are going to raise their prices. They already have been, and they're going to continue to do that because they have to raise their prices if they're going to stay in business. So is it fair that they raise their price on everybody to cover this huge cost of payment processing? No, they should only be raising it on those that are using their card. So you're doing the right thing for the merchant. You're doing the right thing for the consumer. And I don't want to dive into that too much. I've made 1,000 videos on it, but that's super important. You got to approach it. And so the small talk is easy. You're talking about, issues and talking about how's your restaurant doing? How have you adjusted? Are you doing delivery and takeout? How's that going? So all the topics I just talked about, I dive into in the course, and you're going to want to go through that. Next, we're going to talk about the problem. This is where the urgency comes in. The problem is all the restaurant owners in the area are realizing, Susan, Mrs. Merchant, that when they see somebody bringing that card out, they realize their margin just dropped from 8% to 5% or whatever. They see that 3% drop in margin, and they see this problem where one transaction after another all day, every day, like little raindrop, drop, drop, drop. Fees are going out the door. And so what restaurant owners, many of them don't realize, is that the Durbin Amendment that was passed quite a while ago actually did, make it totally, legal and everything to pass the cost of this processing onto their patrons and give the patrons the power of choice to choose how they want to pay. But the problem is that there hasn't been technology that's existed to make that feasible for restaurants. But only recently, technology has come out that's well established, that's proven technology that allows you to implement these programs that eliminate the processing fees. So you have the problem, you go to the legitimacy about the Durbin Amendment and things of that nature. Then you go into the urgency of it. And again, you reiterate, do you realize, Susan, do you understand that, in your business right now, are you getting just maybe a couple of credit card transactions here and there and mostly cash? And they'll say, no, I'm getting almost all credit card, especially now with it being online ordering and everything else. Right. And so you say, exactly. And so every time one of those transactions happens, you go home right now and your staff is still here and they're running transactions. Every time they run a transaction, they're paying fees every time. And so those fees are going out the door. You're never going to get those back. As soon as you implement this solution that I'm describing to you today, you won't pay those fees anymore. And that money is going to go in your pocket. So the urgency of it, just don't delay. Every hour that you delay, there's more fees that are going out the door. The scope of the problem, ask them what their total processing volume is, multiply that by 2.8%, and say, I don't know what you're paying in processing fees, but I know a lot about the restaurant industry, and I know the average is 2.8%. So if you're paying the average, that means take their total volume monthly, multiply it for the year. So they say, well, we're doing 100,000 in volume. Okay, take 100,000 times 12, that's $1.2 million. We take that by 2.8%. My goodness, that's over $30,000 a year that you're paying in fees. If you implemented this program, it would put over $30,000 into your pocket over the course of the year. So the scope of the problem. Then the point of sale. Right now, we got to get into, here's the good news. There's great technology where not only are we going to implement this cash discount program, but we're going to solve a bunch of issues. I can't get into it right now, but a lot of issues with staffing. When you can do pay at the table, they don't have to do that, but if they do pay at the table, that's going to allow them to turn tables a lot faster. They don't have to have nearly as many employees to service the tables. And it just works really, really well. And then, of course, the objection, right? We all know the objection. Well, my customers, my customers are not going to like it, right? And the good news is now we have the data to say, you know what? Our partners at Lavu, they've been doing this for a long time. They have X number of clients. It's really successful. And what we're finding is that the customers have no issue. Now, if they do have an issue, you can just turn it off, but we know that's not going to happen because we've seen this play out. And so again, I get into all of that in the course. So let me do this last slide real quick, and then I'm going to introduce Salim from Lavu here in just a moment. There's two ways you can get the course. So to clarify, I created a video course. It's ended up, I think it's about 2 hours in length, and it has a bunch of videos. You all know how I do my content. And I dive into all the things I talked about, plus a lot more in depth, okay? And I give you all the steps that you need to build this portfolio. Two ways you can get access to that. If you go to ccsalespro.com/training, you can get a 14-day free trial if you're not already a subscriber to our All Access Pass. So that's for an individual. If you're an individual and you're like, yeah, I really want to do this, just go to ccsalespro.com/training, free 14-day trial. That's plenty of time to get through a 2-hour course. Hopefully, you're going to find some other content that you find useful, and you're going to pay for it. It's $59 a month to have all access to all my training content. I'm constantly adding new things, doing new events like this one. And so you can go there, ccsalespro.com/training. And then if you are an ISO, if you have a small team, we have training subscriptions for most teams that are not, huge teams, ends up being around $250 a month. And it's a branded learning management system where we can customize the training content to fit your needs, and your agents get full access. It's not a per user thing. It's just a $250 a month for your ISO to get a branded version. If you have a massive team, obviously we'll talk about it. So that's where you can go to get the course. So that's all I've got. So here's what's going to happen here. I want to talk about Lavu for 1 minute. I want to introduce Salim. So let me actually go ahead here, Salim, and get you unmuted. There we go. So I want to just talk about Salim here for just 1 second and Lavu. So Salim reached out to me, or no, I think I reached out to Salim. I don't know. Anyway, we talked. How long ago was it now, Salim? Has it been 8 months ago? I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, it's at least 8 months. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were in the process of getting their cash discount program going. I was in the process of realizing that this was a crazy opportunity, and that, like, wow, restaurants are starting to enjoy this. So Lavu, being an industry leader with thousands of restaurants, I'm like, this would be pretty cool. So I started off consulting with them and just kind of working with them as they develop their cash discounting and integrating it into their point of sale system. And once they were done, and I'm like, well, this is perfect. Like, this is what we should have for restaurants. So then we started working together and saying, wait a minute, we need to get this out to the industry. So we've done some podcasts together. There's been overwhelming interest. And so I'm like, okay, here's a processor agnostic point of sale system that all the ISOs and agents can use to capitalize on this incredible opportunity with restaurants. And of course, we have Salim, who is fantastic and running a great organization. So Salim, I'm going to turn it over to you. And then whenever you're ready, let me know, and I'll give Nick the screen share. I know he's going to do some things as well.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much, James. And for folks who have not had the opportunity to work with James directly, I highly recommend it. He's fantastic. it's truly been value creation for both CC Sales Pro and Lavu. So super excited to be here and super excited to see all the people that are on this on here today. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Um, and forgive me, this is it's been a while since I used this software. Here we go. 1 second.
Hey, while Salim is doing that, I'll talk a little bit about one of the key things here is tips. So let's talk about tips for just 1 second. So many of you right now are kind of wondering, hey, how does this work in terms of tips? And you're going to see this in action in a little bit. We're going to have Nick from Salim is going to show us, an actual live version of this. But one of the cool things about this is that with pay at the table, what we developed together at Lavu is where the non-cash adjustment actually live updates with the tip. And so again, I don't want to steal too much of Nick's thunder here, but it's so cool because finally you can charge the non-cash adjustment on the entire ticket, including the tip, everything. So you can actually eliminate 100% of the cost for the restaurant. So that's a really, really big deal. And I'm excited for you to see that with Nick in a second. Let me go back over here and just see if we've got, let's see here, Salim. Oh, let's see here. Let me take over. There we go. Salim, I can hear you again.
Perfect. All right, so here we go. Thank you for bearing with me. All right, so we just created a quick presentation. So a little bit about Lavu, right? We're a global provider of mobile point of sale. We started off as a simple cash register on the iPad after the founders saw that a fellow restaurant operator was struggling with their big behemoth $80,000 micros and Aloha box. So we wanted to build something that was better, faster, cheaper, super easy to deploy, super easy to download and get started. So started off on the iPad. Later on, we added processor agnostic capabilities. I think we were the first to partner with PayPal. We were the first to partner with Mercury. I mean, the times were crazy. Then we added online ordering, where we purchased a company called Menu Drive. We also purchased a company called Sorcery, which does accounts payable automation. We are in over 60 countries today. The key thing about Lavu is that it's purpose built for restaurants, and I can't underestimate the fact that that is so important to make sure that your customers have a really good experience. I know you have the choice of being able to put your customers on a number of different POS systems, and you look at a variety of different ones, and I talk to many of you all the time. But I think that's really, really important. And of course, we're processor agnostic, 100% cloud-based. So this is how we think of our peers, and of course, ShopKeep was purchased by Lightspeed. We're often compared most to Toast. So I see Toast, I see Square, I see Clover when we're in a competitive process. But there's a couple of things that I really want to highlight for everybody. One is Lavu is incredibly affordable, and you can check out the pricing on our page to talk about our bundle pricing and how that works. Very transparent and very easy for restaurants to start with something as low as $59 and scale all the way up. We want to grow with the restaurant and make sure they have a good experience, in part because of these margin issues that James talked about. Processor agnostic, so you can use pretty much any processor with us. We work with a third-party gateway. We work with all service restaurant types. We have dedicated partner and onboarding support, and of course, we have the cash discount program, which my partner here, Nick, is going to demo. And then we have an open API and free gift card and loyalty software solution. So if you compare that to kind of our comp set, I feel like we stand out really, really well, and we do well when it comes to competition. As we think about why Lavu wins, we look at Toast Rebel, Touch Bistro, and Square. Processor agnostic, affordable, purpose built for restaurants. 100% cloud-based solution. I can't even believe the number of you that I talk to who says, hey, I'm using this solution, but you got to plug in a Mac mini, or I'm using this solution and it's not cloud-based. Well, what happens if something goes down, right? We are on AWS 100%, but we also have redundancies. And then obviously being purpose-built for restaurants. We see a ton of customers trade up from Square. And the reason why people go with Square is because it's super convenient and it is a good product. But at the end of the day, it just doesn't get it done for the restaurants who are doing 100,000 of TPV per month and who are truly serious about building a long-term business. When you think about Lavu in terms of all of the different restaurant types that we work with, we have so many bars. We have some of the largest breweries in the United States. We cover pizza, we cover ice cream, we cover coffee. You know, at $59 price points, we can cover a food truck and give them reporting. I know many of you have seen the Apple news about your iPhone is now going to be able to accept payments, right? And that's going to work with Stripe. It's going to work with Fiserv, and eventually it's going to roll out to other processors. We're super excited about that because now it puts the onus on Square, it puts the onus on Toast to deliver something that's compelling. For Lavu, it doesn't change anything because guess what? We have the best hardware partner in the world. I would say, you know, definitely in the world, and we haven't faced issues when it comes to shipping delays, et cetera, et cetera. Coffee shop as well as education. So we're in NYU Langone, University of Texas, UMass, and we're also on, you know, we're also partnered with, you know, several airline lounges and some other multinationals that have done very, very well. As we think about CDP, I know many of you are new to it, but man, I can't tell you the amount of success that we've had. And my CFO will tell you that our commission checks for Nick in particular have been pretty amazing the last couple of months. But it allows your restaurants to not only cut expenses, but it allows them to be legal and compliant. You know, we tell them, hey, why don't you try this out? And credit goes to James for this, but we tell our customers in the first 30 to 45 days, expect 1% of your customer base. So 1% divided by the number of orders that you're getting into that restaurant over that time period to have concerns. And I don't like to say complaints because that puts a negative spin on what's actually happening, but you need to prepare them and you need to manage their expectations. In different states, it can be a little bit more challenging, but in certain areas, you just have to prepare them. And we give these folks a manual that basically says, if somebody says this, this is exactly how you respond. This is how you frame it to your waiter and waitress staff. This is how you frame it to your general manager. So yes, it's going to be very, very lucrative for you, but it does fundamentally help the restaurant because it is the second or third largest expense item that these restaurants have. So we train them, we build signage, we make them super prepared, and we manage their expectations. And I think our churn rate after 45 days for CDP is close to zero. It's absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to kick it over to Nick. Nick is our channel partner leader. He's done a fantastic job. Some of you have already talked to him. If you're interested in working with Lavu, feel free to just book a time with Nick or just go to lavu.com and drop your information in and we'll get in touch. If you want to screenshot this, please feel free to do so. But we'd absolutely love to work with you and answer your questions. Nick is going to give you a demo of how our CDP works at this time.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Salim. I wanted to leave this info on the page for just 1 second so you can see it. So again, I've had a lot of people asking. This is being recorded and it will be on YouTube, and we'll send out a replay link as well. And also I'm going to send a follow-up email that's going to contain like the presentation you just saw. We're going to have that in there. So you'll be able to get that and all of that. So let's see here. Nick, let me make you the presenter.
Awesome.
Right. How you doing today, Nick?
Good, good. How's everybody doing today?
Awesome. All right, so I'm really excited for you guys to see this. I think you're gonna be blown away because so many of you have just never seen like cash discounting in a restaurant actually work. And you're about to see that live. So let's see here. Nick, you got it going. Did you get the presenter thing here?
Yeah, I just changed him. I just made Nick the presenter.
Good. Okay. See, what we're really doing here, everybody, is we're just building suspense because this is going to be so exciting when you see this. You know, we're just all right.
All
There you go.
right, here it is, guys. Here it is.
Now
All right. So I'm gonna actually pause it as we go through. So right here, you're gonna see, you know, all we're doing is we are adding in an order. So we added in the order really quick. So right here, you can see we added in the order. We hit the cookie, muffin top. As you can see here on the side, as we're placing this order, you know, obviously restaurants are, you know, they're going to have more than just cookies. But as you can see here, your subtotal, you're going to have your tax, and then you're going to have your non-cash adjustment. This is actually what a receipt would look like as well. Obviously, you know, that receipt's probably going to have that restaurant's name, a few other things in there as well. But right here, you're going to see that non-cash adjustment was automatically applied. So when they go to the checkout screen, you know, whenever they say, okay, you know, we got your 2 cookies and your muffin top, today's total, you're looking at $6.49. They're automatically telling them that card price, assuming that that person's going to pay with the card. what we've noticed in the industry right now, especially in the restaurant industry, is that about 87% of people are paying with a credit card. As you guys know, there's a coin shortage. Everybody's asking for card either way. So more than likely, you know, they're gonna pay with a card. So right here, $6.49. We're then gonna go on to our checkout screen that we hit right there at the bottom. And I'm gonna stop us here. You know, this is our checkout screen. As you can see here, you know, there's different ways of payment: cash, card, discount. You know, there's also a CDP button. So right here, we're just going to go through our regular card payment. If we had a card swiper, it's going to allow you to swipe that card, and we're just going to keep going here. So they swipe the card, you know, ready to charge. Okay, I now have the card on my side. I'm either going to insert it, tap, swipe. Now right here, that card was swiped. So now what it takes you to is, this is a customer facing display. This is what our customers actually see at the end of the day, so that they can, you know, attach their whatever, you know, percentage they want to attach for that tip, and they can sign right here. So this is what's going to allow them to save 100% of their fees at the end of the day. Is, you know, they're going to tip, and on that tip, that cash discount fee is applied to the tip as well. So that's allowing the customer, meaning the restaurant owner, to take home 100% of his, you know, whatever he makes. So that split margin that, you know, James was talking about, that 3 to 5%, they're going to take that home at the end of the day when allowing customers to sign and tip on the screen, because it's automatically applied. So I'm going to let this kind of run through. Select a tip amount. We're doing a custom tip here. You're going to see them sign here shortly. Complete purchase. And we're all the way back to the very end. Now, right here, you can see you can email and print, or no receipt. But as you guys see here, you know, the cash adjustment, what they paid, the tip with the non-cash adjustment was applied. So their total that they were charged was $7.53 at the end of the day. Now,
that's awesome. That's awesome. Nick. So, Nick, let me jump in for 1 second, because I just want to clarify this so that everybody understands what's happening here. Behind the scenes, when the, you know, because you have to, obviously, you do have to tell the consumer what they're going to pay, right? Like, the big problem here is, of course, you can't add the non-cash adjustment after they leave, you know, because that's not okay. They signed the receipt. They have to pay the amount that they were shown on the screen. So what Lavu did is, when they're choosing their tip amount, it's showing the 20% tip plus the non-cash adjustment on that tip revenue. And then that's what it's adding on. So when they go and pay that total, they paid the total with the non-cash adjustment. Then they get their receipt and they have everything itemized on there. Did I say that right, Nick?
Yeah, that's totally correct.
Cool. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off there, but just wanted to clarify.
No worries, no worries. So I just wanted to, you know, go back into this. You know, there's a few things here that I'd like to go over. Just really quick, you know, like James said, you guys are here helping the restaurant owner. You know, we got to figure out what kind of owner this is, because like James said, there's owners that, you know, don't want to pass on that fee. But when you show them the benefits, that's what opens them up at the end of the day to that conversation. So, you know, you got to give them 3 options. One option is, hey, you're going to have no fees whatsoever. Now, in order to have no fees whatsoever, we need you to have the ability to sign and tip on the screen. When they do that, they're doing the cash discount program on their original purchase, on the tip. And then at the end of the day, what we mean by no fees at all is, most ISOs will actually pay for the hardware and the software. So at the end of the day, this restaurant owner does not have to worry about his system whatsoever. Second option, you know, some fees. Let's say they don't want to do sign and tip on the screen. Let's say they're just a quick mom and pop shop with, you know, old-fashioned receipts. Well, what we tell most of our customers at that point is, hey, you're looking at saving 80% of your total fees at the end of the day. If they do, you know, let's just say $100,000, like James said, 100,000, you know, you then multiply it by 2.8%. That's 2,800 out of their pocket. Then you're going to want to multiply that by 80% again. You know, telling them, okay, at the end of the month, instead of paying 2,800, you know, you're only going to pay about $560 because you're saving $2,240. So there's that piece. And then, you know, at the end of the day, let's say they say, hey, you know, you figure out, okay, they're a little, you know, biased on the cash discount, whatever it may be. They don't want to do it on the tip. They're a simple restaurant, and we're going to have them pay their software fees. We're going to have them pay for their hardware. That's a something you guys can do as well. So that's just food for thought. Figure out what kind of owner you're working with at the end of the day. Figure out what type of business they run. Most restaurants love CDP. Like Salim said, we have just blown up on CDP at the end of the day. It's just something that works for customers. It saves them a ton of money at the end of the day. And they just appreciate, actually trying it and learning that most of the customers are not going to notice that there's even a fee at the end of the day.
I love it. I love it, Nick. So let me clarify one other thing really quick that you said. So I want to talk about these two options because I want to clarify it. So again, we have the option where if it's a fine dining restaurant, for instance, they're going to do pay at the table. By them doing pay at the table, you're saying that the customer is checking out on the iPad mini or whatever they're using for a pay at the table device, and they're able to, when they put the tip in, then we're able to add that non-cash adjustment to the tip, so they're able to wipe out 100% of the fees, right?
That's 100% correct.
Okay, and then the other option is, hey, we don't want to do pay at the table. We don't like that. We still want to use the old receipt. Well, with that receipt, the non-cash adjustment is going to be on there for the original amount. But when the customer adds the tip, you can't add a non-cash adjustment to that in the back office because they already added up their total. They put it down, they signed, that's their total. So from that perspective, now the merchant basically is still paying processing fees on the tip revenue, but not paying processing fees on the original amount. Is that about right, Nick?
That's correct. So the reason we do that is, at the end of the day, a lot of people pay attention to what gets charged to their card. If they then notice, hey, my bill was originally $20 or my tip was $20 on a $20 fee, but I got charged $20.80, they're going to look at that. And what happens a lot of times is they tend to do a chargeback because they didn't know that was there. So you don't want to add the cash discount when somebody writes on a receipt.
Sure. And I think too, Nick, one of the other things I want to point out here, I mean, there is so much else, of course, that we couldn't cover, a lot of it technical difficulties and things and just time. But, when you see the back office reporting and everything and the transparency that the owner gets, it's incredible. So Nick, here's what I want to do with Nick and Salim, both of you, if it's all right. I'm going to get you guys to turn your webcams back on. I'm going to make myself the presenter. There are so many questions that there is no way that we're going to get through them all. But here's the good news. I'm going to get all of these questions printed out in my team will get them all in an Excel file. We're going to send them all to Lavu, and Lavu, I'm sure, is going to follow up with each of you to answer these questions if we don't get to them. But there are so many good questions here. I want to leave some time for that. We've still got like 13 minutes. So if you ask the question, stick around. We're going to answer it. If you have a question, ask it, and we'll do our best. So let's see. There's Nick. Let me see here. Salim, I'm going to send you an unmute here. Good. Okay. Salim's going. Good. Perfect. All right, cool. All right, so we got all three of you here. Give me 1 second here, and let me just take over the presenter again, and we'll show the screen here. Yep, screen 2. Okay. All right, here we go. So questions. So most of these I'm going to, send to you guys. I was already kind of looking at them a minute ago. Okay. Let's
Lightning
see
round.
here.
Hit me.
Yeah, here we go. Okay. Talk about the current investment. So Salim, maybe you want to hit this one. Give us, and I know we don't want to get too specific here, but what kind of software costs are, what kind of hardware costs? Like, what does it cost for a restaurant owner, whether it's the ISO paying it or it's the restaurant owner? What's the investment like?
So for a single terminal setup, right, we're basically looking at one station. We have very attractive rates, but you're looking at probably our cost of about $650 to $700 just for the hardware, and then we have pricing that starts as low as $59. We do have hard costs for third-party processing, which we're happy to talk to you about, but that's also very low. Definitely in reference to the margin that you would make on a cash discount merchant.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So one of the other questions kind of alluded to this, and I just thought it'd be good to clear the air on something. So you do not have it. Somebody's like, do they have that 1% fee like ShopKeep has? So
No, we don't have that. That's really important. Look, in this thing, we built this out. We were so excited. I talked to James. I had a guy tell me, man, you should charge $199 a month for this to get ISOs on it. We didn't do that. Then I heard, another company that starts with the word light charges 20% rev share. We don't do that. It is completely free for ISOs to use. We want you guys to go out there, I fully believe that James is correct in saying we have 24 months to hit this really hard. Eventually, the market's going to become saturated. Margin's going to come down. You're not going to be able to price this at 4%. It's going to, it's going to come down. And so you want to hit this as hard as possible right now.
So Salim, there's some quite a few questions in here about just kind of like customer reaction.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get all the specific ones. I'll send these to you guys to follow up one by one, but just give us a feel. I mean, you've got, I don't know, a lot of restaurants doing this now. What's the reaction been from customers? What's the reaction been from merchants? Give them a little insight there.
So I'd love to I want Nick to weigh in as well. We've reached out to thousands of our customers, and obviously you have the early adopters. People who are just like, I need more money, and there's no other way that I can squeeze more juice out of the orange, and so they just jump on this right away. I would say 9 out of 10 merchants will take the call because they want to understand how it is that they can actually save money. I've been selling and I've been doing things for 20 years, and I fully believe this. I've never offered something that 10x's a merchant's life. Like this truly 10x's somebody's life because it makes such a difference. And so, people initially are skeptical, but you have to walk through it. And it all comes back down to the same objection. Is this going to hurt my business? Every single form of the merchant's objection is going to come down to, is this going to hurt my business? And you just have to say, look, there's a lot of data that says it's not. Here's what you do when you get an objection. Here's how to handle it. Try it for 45 days. If you don't like it, I'll put you back on traditional processing. Worst case, you got yourself another traditional processing client.
And Nick, you want to weigh in there? What kind of reactions have you seen, or what do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so at the beginning stages, like Salim said, a lot of people are skeptical on trying it. And what I've noticed is the word try. At the end of the day, that is probably one of our biggest selling points. We've had people write back in like, thank you so much for having me try the program. Thank you so much for having me try it out. It's just turned their business around. They're able to provide health benefits for their restaurant, their servers, whatever it may be. They take this fee, and some may need it, some may not. Some who don't literally will put it back into their business and help their employees at the end of the day. But that's my biggest thing is, it really does change that restaurant, who they are, how they provide business. And one of the other biggest things is, it's funny when you have a customer come back and say, hey, Nick, I know you pitched this 6 months ago. Everybody in my area is doing it now, though. Like, can I hop on the train? They're excited. A lot of them say, hey, I haven't seen it in my area because they don't really look for it. It's hard to see it. But once they notice somebody else is doing it, they're going to hop on that same train.
Yeah, it really does have that kind of network effect where you can really start to snowball. Usually in your area, the first like 3 restaurants you sell are going to be the hardest. But then once you get those 3, do whatever you have to get those. And then just take those names and literally just go and say, hey, they're doing it, they're doing it, they're doing it. And it's, from there, it really runs out. What's funny, Salim, one of my favorite questions was, and I already answered it privately, but somebody said, I just watched your training course on something about, I don't remember which one it was, something about cash discounting from like 2 years ago. And I specifically said, don't go after restaurants. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
wow, like it's changed so much. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, like this event you're watching is why I changed my mind, because like now you can sell it. So I think it's crazy. So, all right, a couple other real quick ones. So to clarify, and I think I know the answer to this already, but obviously debit cards in this case, I don't think you guys are running PIN debit. Like these are all signature debit. Yeah. So as a result, those are card payments. Those are not cash. And so of course, the non-cash adjustment is going to apply to debit and credit transactions because it's not cash. Let's see here. Let leave that one. So do you have to register the merchant with Visa and MasterCard? No, you do not, because this is not a surcharge. This is a cash discount. Let's see here. Is signage needed? Yes. Now, I don't know about
Yes.
that one, actually, Slim. Do you guys provide signage, or is that something normally goes through the processor? What do you do there?
Yeah, we provide standard signage. It's beautiful. It has a nice logo. It has a nice background of a restaurant, and we provide that as part of it. We provide training materials because it's really important, right? You print this out, put this on your bulletin board in the break room, and have that open communication with your wait staff, because they're going to be afraid that this is going to take their tips. But the
Yes.
reality is, when you put sign in tip in front of a customer, we know for a fact that those tips go up by almost 32%, right?
Right.
That's a real
Right.
powerful thing because there's social pressure. So
Yeah.
not only does this help the merchant, this helps the wait staff as well.
Sure. So I want to end with this. It's such a great question. And there's literally like, I don't know, 50 more questions here that I'll send to you guys to follow up with after the event. But I think this will take up our last kind of 4 or 5 minutes here. So I want to talk about sales process. So one of the things we didn't touch on, and a couple people have asked about it, is like, okay, great, this sounds fun. I'll go sell restaurants. Well, what does that mean? I'm going to walk in and I get somebody interested. Well, then what? So talk about the sales process that you're seeing with successful ISOs and agents. Are they, are you guys doing demos for the restaurants? Are the agents getting a demo account? Like talk a little bit about like how does that work? And then let's talk about once the sale is made, what is Lavu's involvement in getting this done? And then, so I'll start with you, Salim, and if you want to get Nick involved, but let's talk
Yeah.
about the agent experience there.
Yeah, I mean, Nick is doing all the heavy lifting, but at a really high level, and he's doing a great job. An ISO would come in, go to lavu.com, click on for ISOs at the top of this page. You just drop in your information. We send you a Calendly link. So you book a time with Nick or myself. We basically walk you through who Lavu is, why we're different, why we win, some of the features and functionality. We'll hop on a short demo. We send you a VAR agreement, so that we can partner and you can keep all the processing. And we basically arm you with all the tools that you would need to go and sell. Now, the thing about Lavu is we want you to basically be able to refer your clients to us. You obviously can participate and be on the phone while we're doing the demo. So you just schedule that again through that Calendly link. We take care of everything. We take care of the tier 1 service. And we try to make it as easy as possible. We do work with ISOs that are more full serve and want to control the process end to end. And if that's you, we're happy to also work with you and give you full set of training tools. We do weekly webinars, but we want to make it as easy as possible. Nick?
Yeah, I guess Salim just hit it on the head. We literally make it as easy as possible. You can be as involved as you'd like, which a lot of my ISOs are. A lot of the ISOs that are coming in, hey, Nick, I have this demo. Whether they do it through my Calendly, text message, email, we get it set up. We do the demo for them. The ISO's usually on because that's the face they know. And that's a great thing about it is, if I'm doing a demo for you, James, and Salim brought you in, he's going to want to be on that call. Hey, how's it going? This is Nick. He's going to be doing this.
Right.
We walk them through the process. We sell the point of sale. We will get them the hardware. We figure out, and that's the great thing is we figure out with the ISO who's going to be paying for this and who's going to pay for the software, hardware, whatever way it goes. At the end of the day, the ISO's job is literally just to refer somebody to us. We do the demo. Once we get it done, I then go to that ISO and say, hey, James, I need a VAR sheet. This is what they're going with. You send me the VAR sheet and we take it from there.
Love it. Last thing I keep saying last thing. We have 3 more minutes, so I'm trying to do a few more. There's some really good compliance questions on here. I'm not going to get into all the details because there is some things in some different states. What I will say is the way that this has been structured with Lavu, I feel pretty confident that you could make this work in any state. So again, I'm not an attorney. This is not legal advice. But yes, there are some states where you might even want to do something a little different with the menu. So reach out, talk to Lavu, talk to me, we can help you with some of that. New York right now is a really tough one as far as it's funny because like everybody in New York does it. And then, but it's getting a little bit tougher there, but you can do this. And so basically what Lavu has done is they've structured this totally compliant version in the point of sale system. And then kind of what the merchant does with it can change a little bit. But again, I think for the vast majority of you, if you're, not selling in Massachusetts or New York or Colorado, odds are you're totally fine. Just go sell it and it's great. If you're in one of those states, reach out and I'd be glad to give you a little bit of extra help. What about tech support? How do you guys do with tech support? Is it 24/7? Is it, how does tech support work?
Yeah, so we have 24/7 support. We've recently shifted to have that be US focused. So we know what times are kind of 80 to 85% of the call volume. We have incredibly capable people around the world because we have offices in Mexico and we're in, multiple countries. And so we really do need to be a global organization. But one thing you'll see, and you should look at our Trustpilot reviews. People here are very, very passionate about helping local businesses and local restaurants, and we want to make sure your customers are taken care of.
Okay, this really will be the last one. Salim, talk about hardware for a second. Is it only iPad? Are there other hardware options? Like, talk a little about, especially like pay at the table. So there's some different questions about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we are an iOS based company, right? So but you can use your iPhone, you can use iPods, you can use iPads, you can use iPad Pros. We also have kiosk functionality, which is really important for staffing shortages. We have CDP on kiosks, so we really try to think very holistically about the solution that's needed for restaurants. And look, like I said, we feel like we have the best hardware partner in the world, and in Apple. And my 2-year-old son knows exactly how to use my iPhone. So it's really easy for new staff to pick up exactly how Lavu works, and that's super super important, especially in this day and age when things are being turned over very very fast.
Yeah, and I think one of the other good points there, Salim, it's like, for me, I probably have 3 iPhones right now at my house that are ones that I
Mhm.
upgraded and I don't use anymore.
That's
They
right.
don't have phone service. Those are perfect. Hook them up to Wi-Fi. There's your pay at the table, right? You put
Yep,
the little
that's exactly
swiper in,
right.
you're good to
Yep.
go.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
right.
love that. Well, Salim, Nick, both of you, thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you for taking time to talk about Lavu and showing them all of it. It's really amazing. And again, I say showing them all of it. You showed them very little of it because we didn't have time. So everybody on here, go to lavu.com. And you said, what was it, Salim? To go to lavu.com, lavu.com, and click on ISOs.
Yeah, just click on 4 ISOs. It's at the
Okay.
top in the header, and just drop in your information. Let's set up a time to speak. We'd love to help your merchants.
Fantastic. Well, hey guys, thank you so much for all of you that are watching, listening right now. I really look forward to hearing back from you. Shoot me an email in a year or two when your residuals hit 10,000 or 20,000 from this, and say, hey, I was on that event, because not only do we want to see the lives changed and really transformed to the restaurant owners, but I want to see that for you as well, for the agents and for the ISOs. And again, this is a limited time opportunity, and I think we need to jump on it. So again, thanks guys. Thanks everybody for watching and listening, and appreciate you being on the event.
Thanks, everybody.
Guys.